YouTube and say good morning. Who's
Good
first?
morning. Steven is first again. And Steve the Texan is like a Steve thing.
You guys should swap numbers. Okay, let me turn on my locals. I want to see.
Good morning, everybody. Happy April Fools.
There will be no practical joking here today.
Well, except on my mom about 50 years ago. There was a little joke pulled on her.
What was it?
That was the day I was brought into this crazy
That's
world.
right. It's Kyle's birthday.
Oh my gosh, that's true. Happy
do
birthday.
this? Wait.
We have Kyle Becker on. And he is so nice to us that he's on his birthday. 21 again.
Can you guys see the streamers?
Yes.
Okay, good. That was my special effect.
I always see streamers. That's just my...
So welcome in, everyone. We're going to let you guys catch up and come in. And yes, we have Kyle Becker with us today. We'll tell you just a little bit more about him after we do our sip. And in the meantime, Beverly, I just want to put this picture up really quick. This is from our own Beverly. Let me make it bigger. Who has a dollhouse collection. This is inside of one of the dollhouses. Can you not stand this?
Wow.
Look at all the detail.
Look at the little pies.
Oh,
wow. That's very detailed.
Beverly, you didn't know I was going to do that, but I enjoyed that. All right. I think we're going.
Owen couldn't be here today, but because of something that he had.
I think the agency needed him.
Yes, the agency.
Okay. So listen, guys, let's do something so we can do something. Ready? Grab a vessel. Is it playing?
Not for me.
One more time. Okay, ready? Here we go.
We don't talk about these things without the proper preparation. Imagine trying to talk about these topics without the simultaneous sip. I can't even imagine it, can you? But luckily, you won't have to imagine it for long. Because all you need to enjoy this conversation is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, chalice or stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure, the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better, the simultaneous sip. Go. Yup. Just as good as I thought it would be. Every time. It's amazing.
I think it's even better than I thought it was going to be. So welcome to the Scott Adams School, everybody. Today is Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. I am Erica, and Marcella's here with me, and we have a special news host joining us today. It's Kyle Becker. I know we're like, how do we get to Kyle? So Kyle, I had to ask ChatGPT to give me a rundown on you, and I don't know how accurate it is, but I will say you have done a lot. Like I was looking, so you worked as a writer and associate producer at Fox News, including on Hannity.
Right.
Is that true? Okay. And that you now run your own news commentary outlets, including Becker News and the Becker Brief newsletter and the Relentless podcast.
So that's a little bit behind the times. I'm now a podcast host at Explain America on YouTube. It's sort of a faster growing conservative commentary outlet. So I do that every day, like basically 6 days a week.
Oh, so you know what? We'll put the link into our show notes so we can steer people to that too.
Sure.
And as I said before, you guys, today is Kyle's birthday. And when I asked him to come on, I mean, he did not even he's like, you know what? Let's go. Like what better thing to do on my birthday? So the other thing too is I saw that you spent a little bit of time in Russia, which you're equating to having a cup of coffee, a little blip in your life, but that's amazing. What were you doing there?
So I was just working on my master's degree, and then like I was working also full time as an economic news journalist. So essentially just editing like newswire copy for subscribers and, oil and gas, things like that going on. Nothing too crazy.
Nothing
Just,
too crazy.
yeah.
Okay. So the other thing I wanted to ask you, like you have a really fun, interesting background. So this is what I want to know because you came from like the corporate news behind the scenes stuff to independent journalism and podcasting where we all sit. And I think most of us get our news from this kind of a source now. I mean, I haven't turned on the news in years, literally in years. So what can you tell us, like, kind of behind the curtain between, like, what goes on, like, behind the scenes at, like, a corporate news place versus independent journalism, like, the restrictions versus the freedom? Like, what do you feel now? What did you notice? How's it changed?
So, of course, in any kind of corporate news environment, you have to be very careful legally. You have to have all of these procedures that are put in place as safeguards to make sure that everything is factual and that everything that goes to air isn't like an attack on some poor schlub who just got mixed up in some, in some news incident and then winds up, getting mad if there's distorted coverage or whatever. So you have to like be more careful in the corporate news environment. I mean, I'm careful. I take the same kind of approach. Whether it's a public figure, it's kind of, you have a lot more free range, obviously. But you call legal sometimes in a corporate situation. You contact the brain room to add another layer of fact checking that's like separate from your newsroom. So you're not getting into confirmation bias so much. And you have like some people who are kind of a little bit adversarial trying to do, oh, I got you. You're wrong about this
Right.
date. You're wrong about this thing. So that's one thing. But that obviously introduces a time hurdle. So it wasn't such a big deal for me on prime time because we're doing news commentary wrap up on the day. That's what
Right.
people do. They settle in and they just like, okay, wrap up for me the top 4 or 5 stories that are worth talking about, knowing about, and give us some depth to these stories. Bring in some experts and people who are in Congress or whatever to talk about it. But on X, for example, where I mainly talk about the news, but besides podcasting on YouTube, I would say that it's very nimble. It's so much quicker than I would have ever imagined the news to be. Because when someone who is an eyewitness to a story has video, has some kind of account about what happened, that can go viral within minutes. Somebody just posts it directly, like a citizen journalist, bam. And then so like I'm looking at all of this from the point of view, what do people need to see? Like the sooner the better, I would say. In a lot of cases, of course, you have to vet. So it just, you wait a little bit. You don't want to pounce still, even on social media. You don't want to be like just amplifying stuff indiscriminately.
Right.
But the commentary from people who I know and respect really heightens that experience because really looking at news stories like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's a different way to look at it. Oh, you're right. This is like this other event that happened like 4 or 5 years ago. It's deja vu. It's all over again, And then, so like that really helps. And if you like people who are more like, from different various expertise, whether it's legal analysis or, citizen journalism, so it's really made a much better news experience. But I think that overall, the corporate media's domination of the news environment was really harmful to our country in a lot of ways. I think that we're reforming the media. I always had set out with the mission to kind of like, don't complain about the media, replace the media. And that's kind of, I see a lot of people doing that. And I'm so like excited when I see, Nick Shirley, for example, who I don't know. I mean, he broke a few big cases. But those stories were there. They were like always there. But it seemed for some reason there's a lack of curiosity in the so-called mainstream media when it comes to scandals that impact their beloved party. And so I think like we're balancing out the confirmation bias. And I always thought it was harmful to to journalism in America when people who go on the news or whatever have a false sense of authority. I don't like appeal to authority for the same reasons that I like John Locke and Thomas Jefferson, right? I don't like this fake authority, where they're objective. I don't believe in that. I believe in debate. I was on debate team for a little bit for college. I believe we all sit down rationally like adults. We debate our politicians or our positions the best we can. And then we just kind of walk away respectfully and try to absorb. Now there's like the respect thing is really what's missing. Like we're not walking away respectfully, because in part, people are used to being treated like children in our country, not like citizens, not like independent thinkers.
That's right.
And so I like to
we're
challenge
smart.
people.
We're smart. Just give us some information. We're smart.
People blow me away all the time by how smart they are.
Yeah.
And when you treat people like they're intelligent, a lot of times that brings them up. It makes them think more. It makes them feel more like a part of the conversation. You're not talking down to anyone. And so that's one thing I love about X and these platforms. It's helping to level things a lot more.
Do you think that it opens it up for misinformation, though? Not from you, but from other sources. Like there was, I fell for one where there was a quote alleged by the video, but the video actually didn't have that quote of this person. I won't mention names, but do you think that this fast-paced X media where it like they break the news, but their video is possibly from 2 years ago and not right now?
And I jump in on that because isn't that what the media was doing to us all the time? Think about the Charlottesville hoax. Like
true.
The media is the one doing that all the time. I feel like this is just my opinion on it because I can go to X and I can just as rapidly go to like 10 different news sources, which are just citizens, people like a Kyle, and see what he's saying. I can see what they're saying. I can see what Cernovich says, whatever, and then make up my own mind. But the news media told us forever that J6 was an insurrection and that Charlottesville hoax was about neo-Nazis. And so that to me is more dangerous because they're the official voice. And like Kyle was saying, these stories that the citizen journalists are breaking have always been out there, but nobody gives a shit. They just want their talking point and their paycheck. And if you really, really love journalism, like go find these stories, like look at what Nick's doing and be like, pick a state and go to that state and find the corruption there. So that's why I trust the citizens more than I would ever any news corporation. And Kyle, now you can answer that too, but that gets me.
Sure. So what they were trying to do in the mainstream media is create an echo chamber. It's a propaganda technique. It goes back to like public relations strategy. You repeat, reinforce. So they would spread a hoax, whether it be Charlottesville or J6 hoaxes that are related to those stories, obviously. And they would very rarely, if ever, go back and correct those. They would just put it out in the ether. That was it. Then they would, drive-by media, as Rush Limbaugh used to say. They would just move on to the next story, right? So, and Scott had that great meme that he posted about all of the different hoaxes. Like, if you fell for this, take a look at what the media, and it was a very impressive list of just like, it's just gobsmacking when you look at it right in front of you. Because I remember fighting every one of those hoaxes. Like, okay, here's the Paul Harvey rest of the story about all of these different hoaxes, and so they're reinforcing that X is very level and sort of egalitarian in a sense, and that means that misinformation can catch fire. But the difference is that I think you get burned a few times. Everybody gets, people get burned occasionally, like here and there, whether you're like commenting on something that's kind of distorted. Like, oh, it's very provocative, right? And so you're just like, and you watch the video and you go, oh yeah, it fits. And then you go back and it's like, well, 20 seconds before he said something different. So it's kind of like out of context or whatever. Everybody gets burned in a little bit sometimes, but the difference is that what happens when you get burned, you adjust, you get more rigorous with your fact checking, you get more critical. You think, oh, this video could be AI. It could be faked or it could be out of context. Mm-hmm. So it's learning. So for me, if you go back to like ancient Greece, I know it's a little bit random, but
let's go back.
Talk about Aristotle, and he talks about what is a citizen. You're participating in society. So what is happening is with X, it's kind of a civil society in that we're participating in journalism. We're not being told like, Moses bringing down the 10 Commandments and, here's the news.
Yeah.
No, that's not happening anymore. We're participating in the news
Thank
together,
God.
and it's bringing us more into a society of critical thinkers. And the better we do that as a community of just independent journalists, I that word's misused sometimes, but as a collective, maybe is a better word, of independent journalists, it has a good spill down effect. And I think when you look at Gen Z and their attitudes, if you look at the polling, they're much more skeptical of everything because they're seeing this play out where we're arguing. They're not getting this top-down authority from the news as much anymore. They're seeing that it's kind of a battlefield of narratives or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So what does this mean for Gen Z? I think it means that they're very skeptical, but I also think that we need to balance that out with more like a national. This is the way I feel. More of a national identity where we embrace values again. Freedom of thought, freedom of religion, so that kind of one of the big stories this week obviously played into like freedom of religion.
Yep, we're going to cover that too.
Yeah.
That I think it's such a good talk. Like I appreciate this whole opening dialogue because I think the what ifs. What if Elon didn't get Twitter? What if Twitter was still under control of the FBI and the left? Literally one day I got suspended so many times on Twitter for yes, I can be mouthy, but I never said anything nutty like that I would ever need to be suspended for. When Mike Pence was running for president or whatever, and he was so bad and whatever, I said, "Oh, stick a fork in him, he's done." They banned me for trying to threaten him. I was like, do you people understand nuance? I'm not saying stick a fork in Mike Pence. It's a saying stick a fork in him. He's done. Anyway. So, but that's just how censored we were. So thank God for Elon on so many levels and for everybody that, had to suffer along the way. A lot of people getting canceled. We will not forget you. Okay. So I am going to just very, very lightly go over this story because I can just picture Scott laughing at Marco Rubio's new job. So again, stick it on my head. So reports surfaced this week claiming that Kristi Noem's husband, Byron Noem, had allegedly been participating in a private online fetish community involving cross-dressing and exaggerated bimboification role play. So anyway, I'm not going to go on too much more about it. I only bring up this story to show you Marco Rubio's new job. And here it is. The man can do anything. So Marco, thank you for being a patriot and taking one for the team. You are a gem. And I think he wears it well. And I could just hear Scott's jokes and I know all of you probably have dad jokes and everything else that would have been so funny. And, but I saw that Marco meme this morning and I'm like, I'm in. Okay. So, all right. One story I want to kick off with, because we just mentioned Jaden. So, Kyle, can you just give me a one sentence thing about what's going on? I want to play the clip and then we'll come back and discuss what's happening.
So this NBA team, the Chicago Bulls, they waived a young player named Jaden Ivey after his religious views, his pro-Christian criticism of Pride Month surfaced. So that's the setup.
Oh, boy. Okay, so here's Jaden talking on a live stream.
They said my conduct is detrimental to the team, right? Why didn't they just say... We don't agree with his stance on LGBTQ. Why didn't they say that? Well, how is it conduct detrimental to the team? What did I do to the team? What did I do to the players? I did nothing but practice with them, play with them, pass the ball to them, good teammate to them. Said good job, good shot. I said good job, good pass. Way to play, bro. right? I said these things to my teammates. Was never detrimental to them. So why is it that the NBA and the Chicago Bulls say that I'm detrimental to the team? How? Because I believe in the truth. Because I know Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. How? How is my conduct detrimental to the team? Because of what I believe. Because of what the truth is.
So that gives you a good sampling. That broke my heart when I watched that. There's a few clips like that, and I feel so bad. It's like he's right. He was probably a perfect teammate, but they don't like his values and his personal opinion. So is that where we're at with this?
Yeah, that for the most part, that's true. I think there's a possibility we see more to the story come out. Jaden Ivey, obviously, he's very outspoken Christian, and he had some questions about Pride Month. And I mean, we have to think about this. This is an entire month donated to celebrating, not just tolerating, but celebrating LGBTQ. So this may feel like to some Christians, like you're speaking for me, like you are celebrating this for me, whereas the Bible that I read has a different perspective on all of this, and I go with the Bible and not what the league says. So this is the problem with these sports leagues amplifying woke politics. They are trying to act like all the players agree with it, and they try to silence those players who speak up. And this is a very extreme action to waive a player for questioning Pride Month. And I try not to overstate this, but the goal of the left is a type of totalitarianism. And I'm not saying that lightly or to be sensationalistic. I've studied a lot of this stuff, and I think that a lot of Americans, culturally speaking, we're like fish who don't even know we're wet. When it comes to cultural Marxism, I don't think that people know what it means, but it's essentially anti-God and anti-family. And if you go back to Black Lives Matter and all those riots, go back to what the founders, like Patrisse Cullors and all them said about it. They are explicitly anti-family and anti-Christian. And so Jaden Ivey, he's a Christian, and he spoke out, and they didn't feel comfortable with what he said. The way they tried to spin it is very reminiscent to me of what they did in the Soviet Union. Whenever you disagreed with the Bolsheviks and like they couldn't get their hands on you, they just said you were crazy. And then in some cases, they did institutionalize people in mental asylums for disagreeing with Marxism, okay? But there were some players who are Christians who I know who spoke up on his behalf and posted Bible verses and, positive Bible verses and talking about being persecuted for Christ's sake, essentially. Travion Henderson, a running back with the Patriots, he is not going to get cut by the Patriots for saying a Christian thing, right? He's a very good player. He's recognized in the league as one of the better running backs, but his coach even had to throw cold water on it. You have to wonder what Vrabel, Coach Vrabel, he was like, well, we have to make sure we're being inclusive. Well, they're being exclusive of Christians, period.
That's true. Yeah.
So the way that these sports leagues have been weaponized as an arm of the left is something that, a lot of people who follow these sports we're sensitive to it. We recognize it. The NBA's ratings is down, and that has been something that's went on since COVID. They started the full-on Black Lives Matter thing, kneeling. A lot of this, whether you agree or not, of course, Black Lives Matter. This is an argument against exactly nobody. And it's actually an accusation against people who disagree with the left that you don't care about Black people. That is not the case. The problem is you are lying. You are lying about homicides like police shootings, for example. There was a Black Harvard economist, Ronald Foyer, I believe. He went to the New York Times, published an exhaustive analysis of this, said there's no when you adjust for incidents, there's no racial bias when it comes to police shootings. And of course, they couldn't handle that. So think of all the damage they did to Black communities. Setting them on fire over lies. And so they're lost a lot of Americans, and punishing someone like Jaden Ivey just confirms once again that these sports leagues are ideologically captured.
Yeah. Let me get Marcella in here. Marcella, do you have a take on this?
So to me, Jaden Ivey is under contract. His contract probably indicates that he's not supposed to talk about these things. So to me, I know that there's this argument of First Amendment rights, but as you know, when you have an employer and you have a contract and you're under contract, that's different. You don't have that freedom of speech that you would as a private citizen, where he was arguing it with them. So I see their side as well. If he, I feel like he's just trying to get um attention. I see that some of the people think that Jaden Ivey is not such a good player, and that he may just be trying to get attention. Now, I agree with him. He has a right to say that, and it's great to hear um, Jesus Christ being put up there. But at the same time, I can see the NBA side of the story. But there needs to be a change for the NBA, and we vote with our views. So we're not watching the NBA. But I think what Scott would say, and he would always bring this up, that Michael Jordan would never talk politics because he wanted everybody to buy his shoes. So I don't know why the NBA is getting into Pride Month to begin with, because it's pushing away people from watching. So
I'm
that's
at
just
the
my
point
take.
now where I see a pride flag and I walk away because I'm like, oh my God, I'm so over it. Like, I don't care what anyone's doing in their personal life, but all right already. Like, shut up. So, like, why are you so special? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
The
listen,
striking thing for me is that we have Pride Month, but we have the 4th of July, like one day, or we have
Veterans
one
Day.
Memorial
Yeah.
Day. Are they saying Pride Month is more important than Memorial Day? I have a hard time wrapping my mind around all of this. If the message
Yeah.
was simply you had one day, you're trying to be more inclusive. I'm not against that on its face, to be more tolerant and to be more caring and considerate and see like your fellow Americans. They may have different lifestyle than you, and we live in a free society, so that's okay. That would be one thing. But an entire month, it's
Well,
a little bit trying
But
to stick your thumb in
you're
people.
right. But I also don't need my NBA or my NFL or NBL to be celebrating these months. I don't
yep.
need that. I need to watch the games, and that's it. I'm a
Mhm.
great sports
Without
fan,
thinking
by the way,
about it. Yeah. Like,
without thinking about the politics. That's why I go to sports, so that and everybody else does.
yeah.
So
Yep.
they're not thinking Iran, they're not thinking Pride Month. It's like it doesn't make sense. Do the Michael Jordan thing. That's my
Yes. Let's be Michael Jordan,
be
Be like
please.
like
Mike.
Mike.
Be like Mike, let's go. And like Marcella said, vote with your views. Don't support it. Don't buy their gear. Don't, or buy the gear of that one guy if you like his stance. But I wish all like public things like that would just stop. Like just stop. Let us freaking breathe. Let us
If you
enjoy something.
Like, if you ask me whether Larry Bird was a Christian or not, I wouldn't know.
I don't
Mike
want to know.
Magic Johnson wouldn't know, because they didn't used to talk about these things. That's why people were so into it, because it didn't we don't we do care for Christian values and all that to be spread, but at the same time, NBA is not there for that.
I haven't gone to a movie or watched, like, any of these, like, "Oh, are you watching this on Net" No, because I know everyone's freaking opinion. I don't wanna know your opinion. I just want you to be that character for me to entertain me so I can not think about all this other stuff. But, like, do you like, ugh, like, I mean, Punchy De Niro is making me so mad because he's in so many of my favorite films, and I'm like, oh, like you're ruining everything. You're ruining your own legacy. You're ruining your own industry. And really, they have destroyed Hollywood. I mean, I
Somebody's
can't take
getting
it.
me going. Don't let me mention Steve Kerr. Like, he doesn't get banned from the NBA, but he's a coach of the Golden State Warriors, and he at his pressers always talks badly about Trump, always talks badly all these political things, but yet this guy Jaden Ivey gets hammered for this, but yet all the other players that are on the right side of their views, the woke
LeBron.
side, they never get
And
censored.
by the way, we're a Christian founded country. And, we see you. Um, he'll be back. But like we see you, and I do wish, like, anywhere that the public spends their money and time, that they would just, have some consideration for how we feel and to stop with the shenanigans. Okay, let's move on to a different story. Anywho, so if that doesn't enrage you enough, I have another clip. So Kyle, oh, here he comes. Okay, so here's another clip. This is Vodka Pelosi, as some people call her. I'm giving you a warning in case you want to plug your ears. This is not AI. This is our beloved Nancy Pelosi. And listen to what she is saying about elections and voting. Shocking.
We always have concerns, but with this president and these Republicans who have no commitment to the rule of law and doing things the appropriate way, we're ready. We have three purposes now. One is to win the midterms. Two is to make sure the elections are safe. And three, to tell people what we will do when we win. And that is the mission. There's so many things that you can do to protect the election, and they are being done, whether it's litigation or legislation or just mobilization, communication, all of that. But in addition to that, we have to be on guard as to what they may try to do to the technology. They may try to creep into the technology and create a false count.
How do you guard against that?
That's a challenge.
Oh, why would she think creeping into the technology? That's so interesting. And the rule of law, and she is fascinating. All right, Marcella, you take this first because I have to calm down.
It's interesting that she comes out with they do have a plan. So there is backroom talks between them and the rest of them. They always deny it. I think she's afraid of losing. And that's a good sign to me that she's showing that she's out there. Remember, as Scott would call her, the designated liar.
Mhm.
She's one of the designated liars that goes out there and gives their propaganda going. But what interests me is that she is afraid to lose, and she's already trying to prime us for the loss and to claim that the loss was because of voter fraud, which is interesting because they always claim Trump, talks about voter fraud and how unconstitutional that is and how horrible that is. But now they're using that same tactic.
Interesting, right? Yeah. So I want to point out, does anyone else notice that she has the same weird mannerisms as her nephew, Gavin Newsom, like with the hands like that don't make sense with what she's saying? Anyway.
Hands,
His hands, and not related.
Kyle, what's your take?
So I would like to sit down with Nancy Pelosi and get a few appletinis in her and convince her that we have to pass the Save America Act to stop Trump from cheating in this upcoming election. And I think we need more election integrity. I'm not sure if she'd buy that. Maybe a few deep, I could persuade her to jump on board. But I'm old enough to remember when being an election denier got you thrown off of social media. I think there were maybe millions of people who had questions about the 2020 election, and a lot of them were silenced and censored. But I've never seen a Democrat ever punished for being an election denier, whether it's Stacey Abrams or Hillary Clinton or Pelosi in this case.
Right.
So their playbook only goes one way.
And if Democrats don't cheat, it's odd that little Jazzy Crockett was insinuating that her Democrat opponent cheated. So are you admitting Democrats cheat, Jazzy?
Well, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. That's the way the Democrats
I know.
Look at it. And Gavin Newsom freaking out about voter IDs yesterday was precious. He got ratioed big time because everybody has gotten to the point where if you can't support the most basic of election safeguards, and that's just voter IDs of some kind, or like a real ID that you can use as a voter ID, that's kind of the tell, as they call it. I don't know if you played poker, but you got tells. That's the tell. The tell is that they are very uncomfortable with election safeguards like you see in 176 nations on earth. I mean, they call it Jim Crow 2.0, but African nations have stricter election safeguards than we do. So it's not about race. And they use the talking point about women. Women are suddenly incapable of doing basic paperwork. Well, in most of the countries on earth, women have to have voter IDs. So I don't understand why American women are so much dumber than
we
women
are.
in other countries.
We're inferior.
But
I know.
Yeah,
if only we
Nancy's
knew
old
how to.
school.
I still don't know how to tie my shoes. It's crazy. It's a miracle I get through a day, honestly. Oh my gosh. So it's just, it's just more of the same. And I wish, like, I don't know what I wish. I wish that we could just stop talking about the next election just for one day, ever, any year, anytime. It's like constantly like the next thing, the next thing. And, now it's like these election cycles never stop. And we're so freaking fatigued. And that's why, this has become like a team sport. It's like always in our face. I'm over it.
Yeah, in my perfect world, we would disband Washington, D.C. because it's not needed anymore. We don't need a central location for all of these politicians to meet in secret. I mean, there's always what is it? Adam Smith talked about anytime you have leads meeting in secret, it leads to a conspiracy against the public. And so that would be one. And the others, we would do a lot more like referendum. Just ask us. We will do it online. We will say yes or no.
Yes, I want a button at my house, and I am whoever wants to participate, like, give us a button like on, American Idol or one of those shows where it's like, "Okay, go to your computer and here's the issues open today, that we're voting on." And whenever you want, you go to your computer, you click yes, no, yeah, no, no, no.
You can represent yourself now. You don't need to designate all of these representatives to go speak for you because a lot of times they aren't speaking for you. They're not speaking for anybody except for themselves and their lobbyists.
Yeah, so why can't we vote ourselves? It's not, the 1800s. We can do it online, and I'm sure there's a way to do it. Right, Marcella? We can do this.
Like Bitcoin or something.
There's a thing called the Constitution, and we would have to get an amendment.
We'll get a convention together.
Yeah, we would need a convention.
We'll put the band back together. We'll figure it out.
I mean, it's doable.
Yes.
So I'm sure it will change eventually. So
I hope we're here to see it.
What I was going to say is that one of the interesting things that I don't know why whatever Kyle was saying reminded me of this. You're talking about Washington, D.C. and not needed. TMC is actually going to start reporting on scandals in Washington, D.C. So, they were focused just on Hollywood and stars or whatever it is. But now they're actually going to go and report on scandals kind of like the one that you talked about earlier, about her Noam's husband and things like that. So we're going to see,
Hollywood's dead. Nobody cares about celebrities anymore. We don't care. I don't care. Nobody cares. I don't even know who they are. I don't care. Oh, look who's coming. We got Owen coming in. And the other thing is, if it's an equal opportunity scandal reporting and not just Trump, because they love to bash Trump, I'm all for it.
No, they said that they would, they're going to do everybody equally.
Are you and Kyle at the same library?
It's true.
I don't think they're. I don't think that they're repping my book at that library. But
that's true. That's true. Welcome, Owen.
True. Hello. Sorry I'm late.
No, we're so happy you could jump in with us here. So, all right. So since Owen's here, Marcella, actually, I did want to come to you for like the next news story. I want you to just choose one that you had for us because you had a list of good ones. And let's dive into something else.
So, in regards to Iran, before coming on, I was going to say Donald, like I know him. President Trump, Donald, came out and said that Iran's new regime president is much less radicalized and far more intelligent than his predecessors. He doesn't tell us who he is. It has just asked the United States of America for a ceasefire. We'll consider when Hormuz Strait is open, free and clear. Until then, he said, we're blasting Iran into oblivion, or as they say, back to the Stone Age. ages.
Wow.
So it seems the Strait of Hormuz is the big, trading the ball that they're throwing around. But I know that Kyle wanted to talk about this, and you wanted to talk about this too. That Trump had come out and said that he needed two or three more weeks.
Yeah, I have a clip I can play about that.
Yes.
All right, let's go to the clip. I'm so clippy today. Okay, here we go.
I would say that within 2 weeks, maybe 3, we're hitting them very hard. Last night we knocked out tremendous amounts of missile-making facilities. We, as you probably read or wrote, we knocked out. Excuse me.
Pardon me for interrupting. The U.S. will be gone or done with the war in 2
I think
weeks.
2 or 3 weeks.
Not 3 weeks. If it is
We'll
3
leave
weeks,
because there's no reason for us to do this. Look, problem with the Strait, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, "Oh, it's unsafe." It's not like you're taking out an army or you're taking out a country, or they can drop it. Or you can take a machine gun from the shore and shoot a few bullets at a ship, or maybe an over-the-shoulder missile, small missiles. That's not for us. That'll be for France. That'll be for whoever's using the Strait. But I think when we leave, probably that's all cleared up. Today I heard tremendous numbers of ships were sailing through. We're negotiating with them right now. They've been, again, we have had regime change. Now, regime change was not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons. But we're finishing the job. And I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that, because we'll hit bridges, and we've hit some. We'll hit some bridges. We've got a couple of nice bridges in mind. But if they come to the table, that'll be good. But it doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them. They have no Navy. They have no military. They have no Air Force. They have no telecommunications. They have no anti-aircraft systems. They have no leaders. You know, their leaders are all gone. That's why we have regime change. We have nice new leaders.
All right. Nice new leaders. So Marcella or Owen, whoever wants to touch on that first. I mean, that was quite the rundown he gave there about what he's taken out. And I hope things are going well. And I hope that we could, leave, and that France and Europe will pick up where we left off, handling with those little missiles off your shoulder. So I'll come to you first, Owen. So what do you think about what he was saying there?
Well, so the motivation behind what he's saying, I think, is to reassure the stock market, to reassure people about the economy, to keep oil prices from spiking too high. Because if he said anything else, like, "Oh, we're going to be there till September," everybody would panic and the stock market would drop and the oil prices would shoot through the roof, and everybody would be screaming about it. So I think a lot of his statements about this is saying there is an end date, it's not far away, but we're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And saying we're 2 or 3 weeks away might be a little bit like what Scott used to say about how future technologies, it's always 10 years out, but I do think it's likely that it probably would end at that time frame, because I think it, the same motivation he has, it's not just a temporary thing. Like, he is trying to talk the market up and talk oil down, but I think he knows that if he stayed in Iran and kept bombing and did ground invasions and had a big, if it turned into like another Iraq or Afghanistan, that would ruin our economy. It would ruin the oil prices. It would ruin everything, and midterms and everything else. So I think, to me, I think it is sincere. I think he is probably planning to wrap it up in the next couple of weeks. And, I don't know what will be left at that point. I mean, I do believe that we've knocked out most of their capabilities for nuclear, and that we've knocked out most of their missile capability.
So it's getting the uranium now, right? So that's the goal. But then, so if he says, then we leave, do the ground troops leave? Like, does everybody leave?
Yeah, I mean, that's what he said. I'm not sure if that's true. Maybe that they just sort of sit there and watch for a while to make sure that nothing big happens. And I do have questions about that whole uranium operation, because, what we heard after that first strike, Midnight Hammer, was, okay, they're never going to be able to get down to that stuff. It's buried. It's, inaccessible. But if they're saying we can go in and go grab it, like in a matter of weeks or some short period of time, then you would think Iran would have that same capability. And so it certainly is a big question in my mind to say, if it's really that easy to go dig all of it out, then I would be worried that Iran still has that capability. And as soon as we leave, they might just get out their excavators and go dig it up.
Yeah, that's what I kind of was thinking too. But I imagine the what do we call this? The bomb that would have to go like straight down like that. That would be I can't even imagine it. But Marcel, I want to have you jump in here.
Thank you for letting me jump in for a minute. Where have I heard 2 weeks and then it will be over?
To slow the spread?
To slow the spread. Yeah, to me, I mean, I'm a Trump lover, as everybody knows, but to me, it sounds very, you can never escape the Middle East. That's like, it's like a black hole that sucks you in. So I'm hopeful that it'll be 2 to 3 more weeks, but I am, like Owen said, he might be doing this for the market, but I don't know. What does Kyle think?
All right, so let me preface this. I'm not trying to like. I'm like an international relations guy by training. I was like in a doctoral school for international relations, comparative politics. Middle East was not my forte, but just I'm a lot more dispassionate about all of this than I think a lot of people are, and I totally let people just disagree. Like, please be. If you want to be doomer about this or whatever, I'm totally fine. I totally get it because I have buddies who went to war. I mean, my son went to war in Afghanistan. I have buddies who went to war in Iraq. They are very negative about all this. And I am against foreign interventionism in the main. I just do not see the dynamics of this Iranian war being similar to Iraq or Afghanistan that much. I think it's much different because of they have a diaspora, like in other words, millions of Iranians live abroad that are against the regime. You didn't have that with Iraq or Afghanistan. A lot of Iranian intellectuals, there's like shadow government. I saw thousands of them at CPAC here near Grapevine, like out in force. And before like the revolution in 1979, they had not perfect, but they had pro-Western Shah, much different society. And a lot of people still remember that. Like they remember that. You had none of that on Iraq or Afghanistan. They never had anything like that. So if Trump goes in, scorched earth, decapitates the regime to a large extent, destroys their military capacity, wipes out their nuclear enrichment operations, and we can return the Strait of Hormuz. This is very tricky diplomatically, and I give Marco Rubio a lot of credit. If we can get that running again, it's a net win for the world. I'm also an idealist, so let me preface that. I just think they're a very evil regime, and I particularly their export of terrorism has killed Americans. Our feud with Iran predates any of this talk about Israel and AIPAC. So like, there's a disconnect for me with a lot of people who try to bring up the Israel lobby aspect of this. I appreciate it. I recognize it. I know it's there. But it doesn't for me, it doesn't discredit the operation to benefit allies in the region. And, and it's not just Israel. There's also, Qatar and, UAE to some extent, Bahrain, etc. So I think the Middle East will be much better in the future moving forward. It'll be a safer place for Americans ultimately if this all plays out. But you have to hand the ball off to the Iranians. And that could happen in 2 to 3 weeks. It could get very messy there. The issue there, and I think a lot of people are rightfully nervous about that, is if we intervene again with boots on the ground, like after it gets messy.
So what do you think about all the statements from those Middle Eastern countries? I mean, some of them I think are still rumors, but like Saudi Arabia and UAE, I think there was a story recently that UAE actually entered the war in some way and that they were somehow lobbying Trump to keep going.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I think the Iranians didn't really do themselves any favor by lobbing missiles into the region, and they fired off what looked like an ICBM type missile a couple of weeks ago. And this has to alarm a lot of countries like Saudi Arabia that you mentioned, UAE. So they're all on board. They just want to see a successful resolution to all of this. I don't think Trump is willing to do it by himself. I just don't see that in his political DNA. I don't. There's nothing suggestive to me that Trump wants to like go there and nation build or control the regime. He said in that clip that he wanted to destroy the nuclear enrichment, operations, the nuclear, to get rid of the nuclear weapons possibility. I don't think he's bluffing. I think that is the ultimate objective, and it's not to babysit a country in the Middle East at the expense of his domestic agenda. It would be immensely unpopular. It would cost the Republicans the midterms for sure. And it would be a blot on his legacy. Trump really cares about his brand. He cares about how he's perceived. And I think this is a real pressure point, in addition to the fact he's criticized the Iraq war in the past and got a lot of support for that. So I think he cares about his legacy.
Yeah, if Trump does pull out in 2 or 3 weeks and then Israel decides, we're not done, because they've said that they might continue. I know it's gone back and forth a little bit in those statements, because I think they made a statement that it's more than halfway over or something. But Netanyahu, reportedly, at least allegedly, has a lot of reasons to keep war going. But now that the other Middle Eastern countries are saying, we're ready to join and support this, do you think you could have an alliance between Israel and the Middle East to go after Iran after Trump is gone, after the Americans pull out?
Yeah, I mean, in international relations, you see that all the time, that countries that otherwise have nothing in common, they have a joint mission in a war or a military conflict, and they band together. But ultimately, it gets into a situation where there's bandwagoning and free riding, and like we say the thing with France, where they're trying to free ride. We've been dealing with this problem of free riders for a long time in the United States because we're the strongest, and so all of these countries try to let the Americans pay the sacrifice. I think that Trump is pivoting to where he's trying to get these other countries in the region to realize it's in your country's best interest in terms of long-term security that you enter this war. And like I said, the Iranians lobbing missiles at their neighbors, maybe one of the worst things they could have done, 100%. Because at that point, it's not just the United States and Israel versus Iran. Iran is threatening the entire region. And they're kind of proving the point about why they should never have nuclear weapons. Look how reckless that is. There's always been kind of perceptive about Iran. It's like maybe they're a litmus test of the madman theory. Mm-hmm. That's where you don't have mutually assured destruction doesn't apply to these ideological fanatics who are apocalyptic. And, they would rather nuke their neighbors than lose power. Mm-hmm. And so that is kind of, if you see the uprising and the way that they cracked down on it earlier this year, they killed 35,000 people. It's kind of suggestive that they're very desperate to hang on to this old regime. I'm talking about an Islamic based regime. They're very desperate to hold on to this. And that combination with a nuclear weapon, of any kind, even a dirty bomb, I think people get a little bit too imaginative about this and thinking about a 3 or 4 stage ICBM. No, I'm not even talking about that. But even just like dirty bombs, it's very dangerous. And Trump doesn't want to be responsible for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people winding up being killed because the Iranians don't want to lose power.
So Kyle, we only have, a few minutes left. And I think a lot of people are also concerned about what's happening here on our soil with sleeper cells and things like that. Like what's your take on that as an effect?
Well, we saw it here in Texas. A guy who was loyal to the Iranian regime went into a nightclub, shot over a dozen people and killed a couple of them. I think one of them went to ICU. I think it was maybe 3 people ultimately. But the idea of them using sleeper cell agents is something to be concerned about. But I think that I really think objectively they're on the ropes over there. And we've only had a few of those incidents in the United States. I think that's probably less than maybe some analysts might have expected, might have seen more of it so far. I think if it would have been a big problem, it would have manifested itself before now. They would have activated them.
You think? You don't think they're still sleeping and they're going to...
There could be a few of them out there for sure, but I believe that the pressure, the leverage that they might have gotten from that is dissipating. They're getting like diminishing returns very quickly at this point. So I think I'm not an expert at these types of operations, but I think like the leverage point would have been before now, like they would have, because it's a series of terrorism is like a series of escalating events. Like this event that happened in Texas and would have been compounded like maybe every weekend. It would have happened like, I don't want to get into details here.
Yeah. I don't want to give ideas or details.
Exactly.
Yes, I know, I agree. Sometimes I wish the news would just zip it, because if I'm thinking, "Oh, this would trigger an idea," then the very mentally unstable people are like, "Hey." So with just a few minutes left, Kyle, I wanna, give you your due here, and, can you tell us about the book you wrote also? I didn't know that you wrote a book until I saw it on your, page.
Right. So essentially, you see a lot of debate right now about the revisionism of Tolkien. You see about what they're doing with Harry Potter. And, a lot of people just want their fantasy to be a fantasy story, and they don't want a lot of the woke politics in it, just to use a catchphrase about it. But essentially, I wrote this book in more of a classic style. Kind of a Tolkien meets C.S. Lewis, and I'm not saying like I'm just saying the spirit of it, right? And I think that ultimately, as somebody who's worked in the news for a long time, it was very frustrating to see the negativity, and I think people are being demoralized. And so this book is essentially, it was inspired during COVID. It took me 4 or 5 years to get this published, but it's about the effect of nihilism on society, and there's a very existential sort of crisis in the world where history is undone, and they have to band together to face this existential force that's going to undo the world. And so there's a series of books. There's 4 of them that are planned out. I'm on my 2nd book. So the first in the series just sets the table, introduces the characters, the stakes, the forces behind it, the world that they're in. The 2nd book is a lot more, character driven forward and really just takes off, but the first one is a very strong introduction to this world of Hypernia. And there's a lot of different political kingdoms. So like for political junkies, there's a lot of political philosophy. There's a monarchy, there's a republic, there's a anarchy, there's a kleptocracy. We're not the pirates, obviously. And so, like, why do all of these kingdoms crumble and decay? And what does that feel like for characters who are in those societies? And ultimately, there's a resolution to this by the end of the series that explains what is to be done. So the famous political question. But it isn't answered for the reader. It is sort of revealed to them, and they can take away whatever they want. So it's not preachy at all. It's not. It's just.
And this is an adult book, not.
It is, and I think that anybody who liked the Chronicles of Narnia, for example, and sort of the outlook on that, the method of writing, but I modernize it. I use more of a modern pacing.
Nice.
Yeah, so
I like that. I don't like things like period.
Like very quick chapters.
Love. I love that. Did you have fun today with us, Kyle?
This is amazing. You guys are cool. You guys are cool peeps.
You're cool too.
Thank you.
You're cool too. And you joined us on your birthday. I mean, how special for us. I hope you all enjoyed Kyle. We did. He will definitely be back again. Owen, you're amazing for running through the door like Kramer to join us on the show. Marcella, I love you so much. Everybody listening, thank you. Please hit the subscribe. Please hit the like, the notification bell, the hearts, all of those good things. It really, really helps keep us to keep this going. You're all very special, and we will be back tomorrow. I'm not sure if it's just the home team tomorrow or we may have a guest. Either way, we will be here as always. Let's have a closing sip, you guys, and remember to be useful, be all the things we were ever taught. And let's have a closing sip to Scott and to Shelly, and we will see you guys in the morning. Love you guys. Go out there, be useful. To Scott and Shelly. Bye, guys. Love you. I'll wait till I see your goodbyes before I end the stream.
Bye. See you guys.
Happy birthday, Kyle.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Marcella.
Liftoff of Artemis today.
Oh, yes. I meant to wear my spacesuit. Damn. Marcella, should we go to locals?
Yeah, we can.
Let's see.
Do you know how to do that?
I don't know. So maybe it's good I
We'll
didn't
figure it
announce
out.
that. Yeah, let's see.